You remember I've asked many questions about the year 2050. In other words, let's go to the future and then engineer how we want to get there. Now, the people actually doing that and giving us opportunities of how to get there are scientists, and we're going to talk to the heads of 3 absolutely brilliant, worldwide leading scientific think tanks. And Rolf Henke is with me again here in the studio as the executive board member for aeronautics of the DLR. And I know that Bob Pearce is with us, Associate Administrator of NASA. And last but not least, Simon Weeks. Hi, Simon, CTO of ATI, the Aerospace Technology Institute in the UK. Now, there's, of course, a strong relationship, and we do not know exactly who is leading whom, but of course, science will in the end say this is possible. Let's kick off with Bob. When we look at the role of the contribution of the scientific community, are they dragging industry along? And are they setting their own agenda? Are you free to do that? Or are you actually being pushed a bit by industry, like, you know, this is what we will finance as far as research is concerned?
No, I think it's quite a synergistic relationship between what we're doing, say, in NASA and with industry, because in order to be successful, we have to make sure our research doesn't stay in the laboratory, but makes its way into actual systems that make, that fly and that control airplanes and so forth. So I think it's a very synergistic relationship. What we tend to do is look at those advanced concepts, and we explore a whole range of them. But by doing that with both universities and industry, we can look at what actually makes sense, and we can narrow that down as things mature. And then we look to bring things to higher technology readiness levels in order for them to actually be transferred to the folks that actually build these into products and get them into the system.
Thank you very much. We're going to look at some of the cooperation that you are actually engaged on in a moment. Maybe, Rolf, you will allow me to bring in Simon as sort of the person on the remote right at the moment. Simon, again, where do you set your priorities? Are you just going ahead like, this is possible, this is what our scientists have found, and therefore we can go beyond hydrogen, we can go beyond maybe even solar flying, and there were a couple of demonstrations that is actually possible. Will you go like, yes, we have these airplanes right now, except they should actually look much different if we have all the scientific clues. So, Simon, how do you actually set your own agenda?
So the Aerospace Technology Institute in the UK, we sit right at the centre of the UK community, both industrial and academic. And the thing we need to recognise is that academics tend to think more freely. Industrialists are a little bit more anchored in what is possible, but I really sense now that industry has picked up the baton and is driving forward and really pulling hard at academia and aligning, and that's very much the role that we're doing.
Thank you for this short, and we're going to talk about, what's around the corner and how you can help enable that. All this talk about sustainability is also part and parcel of the British government move, just right at the moment. But let me address Rolf here for a moment. Again, it's the question of the industrial goals that are there. And then, of course, there is an organization like DLR with their schedule, of course, a lot to do with space, but a lot to do with the ground as well, and in between the aerospace. So who is driving you? Just the scientific interest, or maybe that which is being supported?
Well, I think it's both. First, hi Bob, hi Simon. I haven't seen you for a while anyway. Sorry, to answer your question. I think it's both. I mean, science or research, applied research, we don't build aircraft. We don't have products. We can just offer technologies. By this is what we do. And of course, there is fascination of science, etc. There we can offer something. And now we have to agree on this strategy. Strategy is just a way to a target, to a common goal. And the common goal is set by society, by industry, by our advisory committees, by the politicians like BMWI and others. And then the strategy is negotiated. So we offer things, and then we define together a strategy. And then on European level, we already talked about Europe on this day. We have something like a strategic research innovation agenda. This is set up by all the stakeholders within Europe in a group called ACARE. And there really we have a commonly agreed strategy. In fully international global terms, we have an organization, or these two gentlemen are in, which is called International Forum for Aviation Research. This is less strategy, but it's exchange and cooperation. It's very useful to know what's happening worldwide in aviation and then think back about it, how does it affect our strategy.
Well, in other words, you don't need to reinvent the wheel or even the thought about inventing the wheel. Which it brings me back to Bob. I was saying there are a couple of undertakings that you're engaged in. For example, the Trust Brace wing platform that you're doing with Boeing. Who benefits most? And why are you engaged in such a cooperation?
Right. Well, I'd say over a decade ago, we started looking at what future transports might look like that are inherently more efficient by design. So that would have less fuel burn, it would have less emissions. And so the transonic truss brace wing, which has a very high aspect ratio, low induced drag, was one of those concepts that proved out to be very promising and also practical in that we thought that it could be manufactured and in a way that that would be consistent with the market. So that's why we pursued that. We're also pursuing a hybrid electric propulsion, so adding a substantial amount of electric power in combination with the turbine in order to overall get a better optimal propulsion system and reduce fuel burn and emissions again. So all of those are meant to the goal, as Rolf pointed out. I mean, we all are working towards a goal and developing strategies, and the goal there is to reduce fuel burn, reduce emissions, and that's how we got to those solutions in cooperation with industry and with academia.
Thank you very much, Bob. Simon, we had a very quick chat yesterday, and I got the idea that you and the organization fully buy in on the idea that, yes, we in the industry have to partake in our common goal of making sure that we all survive, which means that we need to decarbonize aviation. Was that always a goal out there, or has that been, rather than a business pressure, has that been a societal demand that now propels science in different directions?
Sustainability and reducing carbon has long been a dream and a goal of aerospace. And I remember working with Rolf back in the early part of the last decade on Flight Path 2050, which set the goals for the European aviation industry. And we're still driving towards those. They're tough, and it'll still take some doing to go. But we're challenging ourselves even further now, and many industrial organisations in the UK have actually signed up to zero net carbon by 2050. So we're taking on and grasping that challenge to get there. And we've formed the Fly Zero project to tell us how to get there. And even the Prime Minister is involved. So he's chairing a committee called the Jet Zero Committee, and has pulled in a number of leading industry contributors, including the ATI CEO.
Thank you very much, Simon, for that. I was just looking at my notepad, which we sort of took during the whole day. And what we are talking about is hydrogen, of course. let's leave hydrogen behind. Let's look at sort of the one step beyond, as one would expect scientists to do. What is out there?
I was so glad if I could already describe what's happening with hydrogen, because even that,
you must
yeah,
know.
but no, I want to answer a question, of course. As I said, we are a little bit more, all of the three of us, in applied research towards products and supporting industry. Now, at the very low technology readiness level, we are a bit more on the fundamental science side at universities, which has been touched on today already too. I hear about ideas like plasma or something to reduce more drag. So this is, we have to look at the scene, what's coming and which technologies have the chance to be developed furthermore. Then applied research picks it up, and then maybe later industry will pick it up. So this is an innovation chain running. Well, as I said, already hydrogen is a known unknown, and what's behind it, the unknown unknowns, I really don't know.
Okay, fine. And we've had that wonderful quote again from the American Minister of Defense. So we're talking about American, Bob. Again, same question to you. What's beyond hydrogen from your perspective? And who would you need to get to buy in to actually roll out, to bring the idea that is one step further into the picture?
Yeah, it's a really challenging question, right? Because when you think about it, it's not enough to find a source of energy that can be useful for an aircraft. It's got to be one that can be implemented throughout a very distributed infrastructure, so that it's available, wherever airplanes fly. And so even hydrogen becomes, rather challenging, right? You have to have an overall energy strategy that makes sense economy-wise, not just for aviation, in order to make this work. So what I think I'd be looking for from a technology perspective, if you take that into account, is something that could be done, this energy that could be converted or produced on an in situ basis, if possible, close to where airplanes are going to operate and so forth, so that it reduces the infrastructure requirements of distributing energy. So that's, and hydrogen is one of those areas where we're seeing technologies that perhaps could do that. So it's not, it's not a full answer, but I think if I was going to look at it from a requirements perspective, that's the kind of thing I would want to see, rather than something that requires an enormous infrastructure change in order to make it happen.
Thank you so much. Every infrastructure change has come because there were ideas out there which then sort of phased into reality. Simon, very briefly, 3 or 4 sentences, your vision of the future beyond 2060.
I think the challenge for that time, and what I want to see, is that transition in terms of the way that we power our society through into fully green electricity derived from green sources. And that's the key to everything. That's the key to future carbon-free flight.
Wonderful. And I have a duty for all of you. Get flying to produce carbon sinks, and then we're there. Then we can actually survive. Okay, everybody's laughing. Thank you very much into this round. I thank you, Bob. I thank you, Simon, for having partaken in this panel. And we have something really nice to be done in a day, in a minute and a half, not a day and a half. You actually, Rolf, have something really new kicking off today called ZEMA Group Emission Aviation, and the beautiful word is zero emission aviation. Take it over. And please, yes.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad that I can talk about it for a minute, maybe 2. So this is a new agreement called, what you just said, Zero Emission Aviation. It's signed by a group called the ZEMA Group, and there are 3 top news behind it. Number 1 is, you asked in one of the panels before, what can we do outside of Europe? How can we agree on everything? And for example, in Asia, this paper has been signed by CIE, by our Chinese colleague, has been signed by ACARE, by our Korean colleague, by Russian colleagues, by Korea, by many of international research organizations. So number 1, the good news, this is really worldwide. The second one is that within this paper, we declare that we want to support the industry, the CTOs we heard today, with their targets on the next products. But number 3 is we want to go even beyond 2050 and so on, to see what's behind this. Not only have the next product, but the product after next. These are the 3 good news behind this very good paper.
Right at the moment, 13 countries signed up. How many do you target?
Well, you see, this is complicated because in a sense, this is a sort of political statement, and any of us have different ways how we can foster political statements. And these are the 13 who dared for this paper, but of course we want to catch them all.
Keep my fingers crossed for a fast expansion on that. We'll be seeing each other during the closing ceremony. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are jumping right into the next session.